One summer moment can change a child's life. Through Toys for Tots Give and Go initiative, your support provides books, games, toys, and outdoor adventures that spark curiosity, creativity, and a love of nature. Whether it's fishing, learning a new sport, reading under a tree, or playing with friends, these moments build confidence and lifelong memories. For too many children, those moments never come. You can help change that this summer. Visit toysfortots.org. Toys for Tots, delivering hope beyond the holidays.
Adobe Firefly is the all-in-one creative studio with AI-powered image and video editing for today's creative process. Built for creators of every kind, Firefly helps you generate, edit, and experiment fast. Because the asks aren't getting smaller, the budgets aren't getting bigger, and the timelines, oh yeah, still tight. With all the best creative AI models in one place, Firefly brings your ideas to life. Unlock a better way to make with Adobe Firefly.
Lovely Rita, meet a maid. Nothing can come between us. When it gets dark, I tow your heart away.
Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, some enormous news in the war on terror and the war against cartels. Just coming in a few moments ago, word is that President Donald Trump has taken out the leader of Tren de Aragua, the most notorious gang, essentially, that has wreaked havoc around the globe and also in the United States. This is very big news. President Trump just putting out a statement a little bit ago that U.S. Southern Command, quote, delivered a swift and lethal kinetic strike, that's a military strike, to successfully execute Nino Guerrero, that is the infamous leader of Tren de Aragua, which of course has been designated as a foreign terrorist organization. We've seen President Trump do these strikes on drug dealers, cartel leaders, and others when they've been at sea. And now we're finding out that he has indeed taken out the head of the snake, and that is the head of Tren de Aragua. You may remember in Colorado, in Aurora, Colorado, they had all those members of Tren de Aragua with all their very visible tattoos that were wreaking havoc on American apartment buildings. Going over, and if somebody squealed on them, they were cutting their hands off. That's who these people are. These are ruthless. And this is the head of the organization. This is a very big deal. The president just announcing a few moments ago that the U.S. military action has brought retribution for people like Laken Riley and Jocelyn Nungari and countless other beautiful souls who have lost their lives because of the ruthless terror rained down by Tren de Aragua. And President Trump saying they will be a threat no more. He also repeats, early in my administration, I delivered on my promise to designate Tren de Aragua as a foreign terrorist organization, deport thousands of illegal criminals, and wage war against the cartels who have long been waging war against our citizens, while weak leaders left America helpless and defensive. And now he says this action was coordinated closely with our friends in Venezuela, which is very interesting, with whom we are working very well. As a result, Tren de Aragua terrorists no longer have safe haven in Venezuela or anywhere else. Under my leadership, we will find these vicious murderers and drug lords anytime, any place, and send them to the depths of hell where they belong. Huge news tonight. The leader of the notorious Tren de Aragua gang taken out in a lethal military strike, coordinating with the country of Venezuela to take down one of the kingpins of cartel crime. And this man, I'm sure, has enormous blood on his hands. And I think about the courage of President Trump tonight, guys, right in the middle of everything we're dealing with Iran and so many other issues on his plate. He obviously got good intelligence that the leader of Tren de Aragua was in their sights. They took the action. And I also think it's extremely significant that he coordinated with the country of Venezuela. This is a very, very big deal. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. And you are listening to the Rita Cosby Show. It reminded me of Soleimani. Remember when he took out the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps years ago? Also, some of these other strikes that he has taken, as I mentioned, some of the strikes on boats and vessels that have been coming across into the United States. This president has not waited. He has taken the strike when he felt it was necessary. Also, of course, taking out the leader of Venezuela, bringing him to American shores. That was an enormous deal, bringing Maduro here. And if indeed the Maduro regime, as we know, which was not coordinating with the United States, if indeed this new regime, post-Maduro, which we know has been working well in terms of oil and other entities, and if they are indeed coordinating now with intelligence to take out the leader of Tren de Aragua, wow, that is incredible coordination between the U.S. and Venezuela. What an enormous, enormous day. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Meantime, President Trump also cheering on the team from USA. Of course, the World Cup has begun, and USA is playing Paraguay in Los Angeles. Let's hope they make it to the Miracle on the Grass and make it to MetLife Stadium for the finals. That would be incredible. And President Trump, ever the sportsman, remember we saw him at the Knicks game, and now we see him calling in to the U.S. men's soccer team, cheering them on before the big game. Take a listen to this. This is Andrew Giuliani, who was with the president. He was with the team and said, oh, here's the president calling in to wish you luck. Here it is.
Mr. President, Andrew Giuliani, how are you?
Hi, Andrew. How you doing?
Well, I'm standing in front of 26 champions and a great coach, Coach Pochettino, right now. They're ready to go and run through a wall. So I'm going to give you to Coach Pochettino and the captain.
Hi, Coach.
Hi, Mr. President. How are you?
Well, I just called to say you're a fantastic guy, a fantastic coach. I know all about your record and your success, and I know how great the players are. I think you've got a really good chance of going all the way.
Thank you so much.
I just want to wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you so much for your support, Mr. President, and we are going to do everything to make proud you and all the people here in this country.
Very exciting to have the President of the United States cheering you on through it all. And of course, the big issue also on the plate is, will there be a deal with Iran potentially this weekend? Well, there are reports that one may be that close. Although, here is General Jack Keane, 4-star general, retired head of the Institute for the Study of War. And he said, you know what? He is very, very skeptical of any deal with Iran.
So I'm looking at this deal and saying to myself, even if they sign, as the president indicates, on a dotted line, won't they stall the implementation of that? And won't they cheat dealing with the implementation of that? And you're nodding yes.
Yes, they will.
And because we know it.
We expect them to.
Yeah. So I still think the preferred option here is to recognize who we're really dealing with here. And we're never going to make the perfect deal with these guys because they're not going to implement it. Let's get on with the 10 to 14 days that we need to finish them militarily. And yes, the president is focusing on what would cause economic collapse of the regime, Karg Island.
The collapse of the regime would be Karg Island. That is the oil infrastructure. Are we just delaying the inevitable? Here's a little bit more from General Jack Keane.
Out. And I think when you draw back and look at the regime, they took the Straits of Hormuz 2 months ago with the idea that we would participate in negotiations and it would open up in 2 weeks. Well, here we are 2 months and it's still not open. They are not good faith negotiators. They have stalled these negotiations. In my view, even if they sign on the dotted line and we get everything we want on paper, what are they going to do in terms of implementation? They're going to stall it. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to attempt to reverse it. And because we can't trust them. And that's who I think we're really dealing with here. And I do believe we're likely on a path to return to major combat operations. And that will put the regime on a path to its collapse, not just from the military targeting, but also from the economic warfare that we're conducting here.
And get this, if things aren't crazy enough, First of all, you've got Hunter Biden. Yeah, Hunter Biden, who is defending Graham Platner in Maine, essentially saying, oh, it's not that bad. And then you've got Graham Platner, who now is trying to act like he's the big foreign policy expert in America. This is a guy who is the oyster farmer who reports say that the only person he's selling it to is his mom. And of course, he just won the Democratic primary a few days ago. That's the guy with the Nazi tattoo. And of course, now he, I guess, thinks he's the big expert on world affairs. And of course, he had to chime in on what's going on with Iran. You can't make this up, guys. Listen to Graham Platner, the guy with the Nazi tattoo.
Everyone's like, oh, we're almost to a peace deal in which we reopen the Straits of Hormuz. And it's like, oh, you mean what we had before the war started? You're going to tell me that we just spent $50 billion, 13 dead Americans, thousands of dead people, gas prices soaring, a possible collapse of fertilizer industries just to get back to where we were? That seems like a pretty stupid use of military force to me.
Well, speaking of pretty stupid, you think anybody's going to believe you that you didn't know what the tattoo was? That's stupid. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Ed on line 1 in Tampa Bay. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, this is Eduardo. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, Eduardo. Sorry about that. How are you, Eduardo? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's good to hear you. Yeah, I saw that news before you came on about the leader of Trinidad, Iowa. Great news.
That is huge news. What is your reaction? Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, great news. I've been telling people that I think we should move up all the troops that we have in Europe and put them in South America and Central America, because then we would be a supporting force to the local governments in South America and Central America fighting these drug cartels. There's a story in The Sun, if you want to believe it, but we're supposed to be creating a Cuban armada, just like we did in Venezuela, to get ready to possibly arrest Raul Castro and even, get rid of the communist government in Cuba.
You bring up a great point. Do you think, by the way,
after the midterms,
you think that's next? I wouldn't be surprised, right?
The question is when it's going to happen. Yeah, that's the question.
So you think he would wait until after the midterms. Now, why do you think he would want to wait till after the midterms?
Well, we're finishing up with the, if you want to call it, mopping up with the Iran thing. And I think to jump into Cuba right away is a little bit, reaching. So it would make perfect sense to wait after the midterms.
That's an interesting point, because you're right. It's like his hands are pretty full, although, sometimes events create the moment. And I think that's exactly what happened, probably with a number of these things. I have a feeling with, if you look at, for example, you look at the issue with, with Maduro. They probably got great intel and they said, okay, we're going to go for it, And then there were probably other issues, as you look at, like with the Soleimani strike, suddenly they got the intel. Clearly tonight with Tren de Aragua, sometimes the intel presents the moment, and maybe they get intel on Raul Castro, Ed.
I'm a big fan of human intelligence. That should always be a prelude to any operation, is human intelligence, not that machinery, but human intelligence. I think that'll go very far as to being successful in any kind of operation.
Yeah, 100%. Eduardo, thank you. It's so great to talk with you.
Thank you, Rita.
Always great to talk with you. And I understand we have former New York Governor David Patterson calling in. God, what a nice surprise. Go ahead.
How are you, Rita?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Well, what amazing things have happened since I saw you at 6 o'clock.
I know. Isn't this incredible that the leader of Tren de Aragua taken out with the aid of Venezuela? That's a big deal.
That is incredible. And you know what? It was only a matter of time until President Trump, who, I disagree with him a lot, but I think a Democrat who can think without everything being partisan, an incredible step. And it should scare anybody that really wants to get in the way of us again.
I love what you're saying, because you're right. That should send chills down anybody's spine, and especially, You know, you think about somebody like the head of the gang, like a notorious gang like Tren de Aragua. And as you know, they're everywhere. They're in New York, too. I mean, they're in every single state. Our show is across the country, Governor. And there are major Tren de Aragua influences and crimes that have taken place in New York. I can think of a whole bunch that even happened in Long Island.
Oh, absolutely. And I grew up on Long Island. It's amazing. I just never thought that type of thing could happen in that area. And then also the issue of the swiftness that it happened, it's chilled my spine, and I'm on our side.
Yeah, so you can imagine. You had a good point, because anybody who is doing anything against the United States, you know that they're looking over their shoulder. First, you know, he gets Maduro, and talk about what a change that has already been. He gets Maduro. He's now behind bars in New York, Governor. And then you've got Tren de Aragua, helped by Venezuela intel, it looks like, in Venezuela. And we're just getting details, but it looks like clearly Venezuela had the intel, or at least cooperated. It's unclear if it was there, but it looks like it. But they at least played a role. I mean, what a turn of events to now have the new leadership actually providing intel to get that strike to happen by the U.S. That's enormous, right?
Well, I was thinking about our interview that we did around 5:30 earlier this evening with KT McFarland.
Yep.
And what she said is that what's going to work this time is that the Arab Gulf states have decided they want to help us. Now, there's no clear indication of that, but apparently KT knows something that's indicating to her and to a lot of people, we're not taking this crap anymore, and we are going to restore some kind of civility to that particular area. And if Iran wants to keep playing games as to whether or not what they want to do, the reaction might be swifter and stronger.
Yeah, no, that is correct. And it's teamwork. And it's getting these folks, like you just hit it on the head, of these groups, whether it's dealing with Iran, you're getting some of these Arab countries that were not necessarily coordinating with us in the past, now on our side against Iran. Now you got Venezuela cooperating against the gangs. I mean, it's a new day because of President Trump. Governor, we got a heartbreak here, but I just want to say how happy I am to have you call in. You made my night because you're one of my favorite people.
Oh, I called in to let you know that because you're going to get an incredible award in a few days, and you deserve it richly. You've been doing this for a number of years, and tonight is one of the outstanding times when you jumped right out of what you were going to do and picked right up on the breaking news.
Oh, Governor, thank you. I love you and adore you, and thank you so much. You're such a big part of the award. The award's for Katz and Cosby, and the Governor is a huge part of our A-team, so it's part of yours too, my friend. Thank you, Gov. Love you. Have a great night.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you so much. How great is that? How beautiful. Former New York Governor David Patterson, one of the best guys out there. 1-800-848-9222. And you are listening to The Rita Cosby Show on a very busy Friday night. And the head of Tren de Aragua taken out by President Trump. The announcement made a few minutes ago. We're going to have more details coming up.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment is coming from Omaha, Nebraska, where two police officers are being hailed as heroes after saving a boy from a house fire. The two officers say rescuing the 4-year-old was 100% instinctual. Now, officers Ekstrom and Baxter were responding to an abandoned car in the street when they suddenly saw an explosion and a large fire. Officer Ekstrom saw the flames growing, and he said, I just ran up to the house as quickly as I could. Once on the scene, the residents told the officer that their 4-year-old son was still in the basement. So he immediately ran to the side of the house. He kicked out a basement window, and he called for the 4-year-old child. The child followed the sound of the officer's voice to the window, where he then pulled the boy out to safety. The officer shared that 100% instinctual. That's how I reacted. I'm a dad first. I'm a dad before a cop, and every kid I see reminds me of my own kids. So I just did what I could. It all happened so fast. It's nothing you can really plan for. Both officer and the child only had minor injuries. It is absolutely incredible. Thanks to our great men and women in blue. And again, let's go to the big breaking news tonight.
Breaking news.
Just coming in again that the leader of Tren de Aragua, Nino Guerrero, has been successfully taken out in a U.S. military strike. This is enormous news. President Trump just announcing it and saying that U.S. Southern Command delivered a swift and lethal kinetic strike to take out the leader of one of the most infamous, notorious gangs in the world, Tren de Aragua, the gang responsible for drug smuggling, human trafficking, money laundering, and so much more. By the way, Guerrero escaped prison back in Venezuela just before a police raid back in 2023. And that is indeed when he was sort of working with, if you could say, with the Maduro government in Venezuela. What a fast turn of events. Maduro has now been taken into custody, as we know, in New York several months ago. And in addition to that, now the leader of this notorious gang working with apparently intelligence from Venezuela, the U.S. was able to take him out. And this is an enormous deal, and President Trump announcing it only moments ago. And let's go right to Paul Perez. He is head of the Border Patrol Union, representing thousands upon thousands of great men and women with the National Border Patrol Council. Paul, thank you so much for joining us late on a Friday night. What's your reaction? This is huge news.
Rita, I'm happy for many reasons. This is justice. While there can never be true justice to the families, this is something good for the family of Jocelyn Nungary and Laken Riley, who were murdered by members of Tren de Aragua. And so the fact that President Trump did what most people think only happens in movies, he did it. He showed the video. He brought the receipts, and he said, I am going to fulfill my campaign promise to go after these cartels, these terrorist leaders, and he did that today, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, I mean, how beautiful. And by the way, he put out in that statement, I don't know if you saw it, Paul Perez, but he said, I pledge to expel these monsters from our country, to bring justice to families that they slaughtered, including, and he cited Jocelyn Nungary, the 12-year-old, 22-year-old Laken Riley, and he said, and countless other beautiful souls. I made a commitment and I'm honoring my commitment. I mean, I can't think of a more consequential attack on the gangs and the cartels than taking out the leader. I mean, this is a huge deal. And of course, it comes after Maduro was taken to the United States. Now there's a new Venezuelan government, and President Trump has been touting this new Venezuelan government. And what a contrast, a few months makes. I mean, Trump has changed the hemisphere, Paul Perez.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what he's done. And look, anybody that thinks that President Trump isn't going to follow through on what he said he's going to do with these terrorists, whether it's a terrorist in the Middle East or a terrorist in the Western Hemisphere, South America, it doesn't matter. They're not going to be able to hide. He's going after them. He's bringing with him the world's most advanced and best trained military. They're not going to be able to hide. This guy had no idea this was coming, and in an instant he was dead. And I think that brings happiness to thousands, millions of people across the country, thousands of people there in Venezuela that want to be free from these terrorists. And it's just another step in the war against these terrorist cartels.
You talked about how ruthless these cartels are. I was even thinking about even in Aurora, Colorado. Remember the famous scenes where they were like knocking on the doors with submachine guns? How ruthless is this gang and how pervasive?
They are just as deadly, just as ruthless as any other cartel. Whether it's Colorado, Nebraska, New Mexico, New York, Texas, it doesn't matter. They were going and they were operating with impunity. These are people that came in and took advantage of the Biden administration's open borders policy. They came in and they took over neighborhoods. No more. President Trump has put an end to that. The Department of Justice has put an end to that, and they are going after them. And so, these were some of the most brutal people that were operating here in the United States and across the world. But today sent a message. They cannot hide. Their days are limited.
How chilling is this effect? Like you just talked about, it definitely sends a message. It has a chilling effect, I would imagine, on other cartel leaders and also maybe the number 2 and 3 guy of Tren de Aragua.
It's just like Iran. Initially, nobody wanted to be in charge. Nobody wanted to be the number one because of what happens to the number one. So I think it sends a chilling message, just like you said, and this is going to be the beginning of the end of Tren de Aragua.
How important was it, too, to get this particular gang? Because this gang seems like it's been very pervasive in the United States. You brought up New York. I remember there were a lot of stories in Long Island. I brought up Aurora, Colorado. They seem to have gotten a foothold. And I was bringing up, there's a lot of layers to these gangs, not just, the drug smuggling, the fentanyl and other things, human trafficking, money. There's so many layers, right, to their criminal enterprise.
Yeah, they operate in everything from drug trafficking, firearms trafficking, commercial sex trafficking, extortion, theft, fraud, robbery, kidnapping, you name it, they do it, because at the end of the day, the bottom line to them, just like any other cartel, is money. But they are terrorists. They terrorize neighborhoods, they terrorize people, they torture their victims, and these are people that cannot be rehabilitated. So this kinetic strike on their leader is the best thing that President Trump could have done, because it sends a message to their leadership that he's not messing around. The United States means what they say when they're going to come after you, and I hope they're listening and watching now.
One of the things, too, they were sending a lot of the Tren de Aragua guys, as you know all too well, Paul Perez, head of the Border Patrol Union there, a lot of them to Sikot prison in El Salvador, right? Because these guys, like you said, they're the worst of the worst. They didn't trust the Venezuelan government to send them back to Venezuela.
No, and the Sikot prison there in El Salvador, that is a model for these types of animals. These people that belong in that type of prison, that's exactly where they belong. And so President Trump, by sending them there, by having El Salvador accept them as prisoners, that was, again, another great feat. And so we don't want these people in the United States. We don't want them terrorizing people in their own countries. And that's why I believe Venezuela cooperated and allowed, them to share intel, and it led to the eradication of their leader.
Yeah, this is a major, major effort. Paul Perez, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Such big, huge news. And I can't think of anybody better than you, because you understand the fight against these ruthless guys left and right. And your men and women in the Customs and Border Protection and the Border Patrol that are right there on the front lines are dealing with them all the time. So to hear your perspective is so important on this Friday night. Paul, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you so much. Paul Perez with the Customs and Border Patrol Union, representing thousands upon thousands of brave men and women. Let's go to your calls, you guys. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Sal in New Jersey. Sal, before we get started, your reaction to this big news tonight. This is a biggie.
Oh, I'm quelling with excitement and joy, Rita. I think it's so wonderful. We finally got justice. And I just want to say, Rita, is that President Trump, he should go one step further. He should go to the American people and say that we're at war with Tren de Aragua and with global terrorism, and tell them we're going after all terrorists, whether they're in the Western Hemisphere, whether they're in the Middle East. And then he should go one step further than that. He should go after Antifa, which is a domestic terrorist organization.
You brought up Antifa because they are present at all of these protests around the country. Also, a lot of these groups sort of coordinate with each other. You see sometimes some of the cartels and gang money infiltrated in some of these protests. You see the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, anti-Israel groups. It's like sort of a cauldron of hate, if you will, right, Sal?
Absolutely, and it's a network of terror. You see all these you saw in that place in Newark when they were Delaney Hall with their keffiyehs and their bullhorns. It's a network of terror, and they're all against the United States, and they want to pull us down. They want to destroy us. And Trump has got to let Mark Wayne Mullen and all of the people in ICE go after those people and get rid of them.
Yeah, and you know how courageous I really think of. My first thought was tonight was like, wow, this is, first of all, enormous news. And yet President Trump is like changing history all the time. I mean, if somebody said, not only would Venezuela be working with us, that we'd get rid of Maduro, who's in New York, but then the new Venezuela would be cooperating to get rid of the head of the most, ruthless gang out there. And we took him out in a clean strike. And apparently they said it has been ID'd. It is indeed the head of it, the group. It's Nino Guerrero. I mean, it's a remarkable turn of event in just a few short months, Sal. I mean, Trump really is changing history.
Yeah. And like I said before, he's got to come. I think he should make a speech to the American people and lay out a strategy and a program for what he wants to do against all these global terrorists, especially the ones in our hemisphere. And he should stop paying attention what's happening in Europe and let the European allies do their business, because they didn't even help us in the war with Iran. Let them do their business in Europe, and let's focus on our hemisphere and do our business here.
Well, and again, as you mentioned, they are just right in our backyard, and they're in our country, a lot of these gang folks. So you're right, the stakes couldn't be higher. And you think about the fact 100,000 Americans were dying every year of fentanyl before President Trump took office. And these gangs are the ones who are the precursors, putting it together with China and else and bringing it across the border. And nothing could be more grave and more serious. Sal, thank you. Really great to talk with you, Sal. You're awesome. Let's go to Steve in New Jersey, line 1. Go ahead, Steve. Your thoughts tonight.
Hi, Rita. I just think it's amazing how these two people that I've seen on TV a couple times, the geeky-sounding white guy with an Asian lady, come on, and they were the recruiters for this Platner, literally going in, finding people online, and he speaks with that weird voice, going, I think he's looking for, and then all of a sudden, Platner, I just heard it on your show, Rita. I don't know if you caught this, but when he's giving a speech, he's talking. I'm going to imitate his voice. I just like to say for my fellow people from Maine. And then he's talking to being interviewed, speaking like this. Well, I think he's wrong. You see the difference?
Yeah, that is interesting. By the way, you know what's interesting, Steve? You had a great point, because those people, they were supposed to be sort of the people vetting the candidates. I mean, which is just the most bizarre thing. And I remember in that interview that I found it so odd. I'm so glad you're bringing it up, because those two people were part of sort of the Democratic Party in Maine. And the interviewer said, well, didn't you notice he had this in his background, or did you find out about this? And they said, no, we didn't really know it. And then some of the things they did know, they said, well, we didn't really take it seriously. I mean, they just seemed like they were in la-la land. And then to your last point, he is like defiant. I mean, the fact he's like going out and trashing President Trump. How about his like victory speech where you did a great representation there, Steve? And I'm sitting there thinking he like came out swinging. I mean, he was blasting Trump. He was blasting Susan Collins. Like I call it cojones.
When he was talking with the voice, though, on a recent interview, Rita, he was talking more like my vocal pitch right now.
Yes.
But when he goes before the speech, he puts on the fake voice. This guy's a fake. Look, Rita, I'm a retired lieutenant colonel from the Army Reserve, served in 4 combat zones. I'm a weekend warrior, also retired police officer. Served more time downrange than this guy. He is not a great soldier. He's not a great Marine. This guy is full of it. And we probably do a deep dive into his military history. We're going to find out all types of wacky stuff. He doesn't have any awards. And by the way, if he did have an award, Rita, I've earned 2 Bronze Stars in my time in the military.
Thank you for your service.
Bragging about those. he would be bragging about those Bronze Stars and all the awards that he's got. He doesn't have one award. And it's kind of interesting. Nobody's come out in the military going, yeah, so I was in the Marine Corps with him, and he was a great guy. You know why, Rita? Because nobody can say that about him. He was probably a disciplinary problem his entire time he was in. He did his 8 years and got out because they didn't want him anymore. And he went up. He's unemployed. He filed for a VA disability, whether he was righteous or not, obtained a disability rating of 100% as a disabled veteran. Saying he had PTSD, whether it's true or not, he has it. That's his only source of income besides the part-time assignment with his mother getting the oysters for that restaurant. That's it. That's who we have as a guy running for the main Democratic Party Senate candidate.
And by the way, you left out the fact also, and Steve, I agree. I'm waiting to hear what's in his military records. I'm waiting to hear people in his unit because I haven't heard anybody from the military come, who serve with them. And also, he was trashing. How about he was trashing Purple Heart recipient Teddy Daniels, trashing American sniper Chris Kyle, trashing women, trashing blacks, trashing gays. I mean, this guy's a despicable human being. I agree with you, Steve. It's shocking. And the fact that the Democratic Party has gone to the bottom of the barrel. I mean, they're like scraping below the barrel. They're scraping the dirt off the barrel with this guy. And I have a feeling there's going to be so much more out there because this is just the beginning of the race. Wait till like the Republican opposition people, because they didn't have to really worry about him, until he won the primary. Now he's the candidate, barring any major thing that pushes him out or he goes out. They have, I think it's 2 weeks for him to voluntarily leave or agree to leave, but if he doesn't, he's in the race, and he doesn't look like he's going anywhere. So there's going to be a lot of stuff.
I was going to tell you one more thing about him, too. I'm a retired police officer, expert on the law. When he took his girlfriend and he put her arm behind his back and he stuffed her into the bedroom.
Right.
Okay, that's an act of domestic violence, but let me give you the crime. It's kidnapping. He committed all the elements of the crime, kidnapping. I don't know when he perpetrated that crime, but it might be within the statute of limitations.
Hey, Steve, hey, do me a favor. Stick with us. We're going to go to a break. I have a couple questions I got to ask you with your background, with your military and also legal and police background. I actually have a couple other interesting things I want to throw at you tied to good old Graham Platner. Stick with us. We're going to take a quick break. We just got a hard break, and we'll be right back, everybody, here on The Rita Cosby Show. And let's go back to Steve in New Jersey. Steve, right before the break, thank you for your patience too. You brought up a great point about the kidnapping because the allegation from that ex-girlfriend of 3 years, by the way, it wasn't like some, quick relationship. It was a 3-year relationship. She says, and he denies it, but she says that it was physical. He put her arm behind her back, locked her in, like you said. The other thing I thought of, Steve, what about the fact he claims all the girls that he was, quote, sexting with on this app, he says he's so sure they were adults. Do you buy that?
No. Well, Rita, you're an expert on this too. Look what happened to Anthony Weiner, okay? So this guy is a disaster. They did not properly vet him, and seeing those two knuckleheads who've been interviewed on the news a few times now, I'm not surprised. He wooed them with his macho man voice. They probably coached him in doing that. Well, I'm going to tell you, fellow people from Maine. They told him to do that. But by the way, he can't do it all the time, Rita, because if you do what I just did all the time, your vocal cords get destroyed and they start getting really, it starts hurting.
Yeah.
So you can't do that all the time. So he's not doing it on every interview. But
you're right.
That's what's going to happen now. It's piling up. Remember Anthony Weiner? Anthony Weiner could have been the president had we not busted him for this stuff that he.
You're right. It was the sexting, and it opened the doors. And boy, if there are minors involved with Graham Platner, wow.